Welcome back to the channel, everyone. You'll be able to tell that I have a new mic now, so we can get back into this. And I'm also not recording in my gym sauna, so hopefully the quality sounds a little more acoustic this time going around. So today we're going to jump right into making the sleeves, and for that I have to show you on the shirt, because the difference with these sleeves from a regular jacket or shirt is that they're very flared at the end. So I actually had to go ahead and make my own pattern. What you're seeing here on screen is me taking apart an old dress shirt that I have. I actually used it for my Doflamingo cosplay. I think my first Doflamingo cosplay, so years ago. Not a shirt I need anymore, so I'm taking it apart because I know that it fits me very loosely, and I want to use that to get the original pattern for just a regular sleeve that fits my length. And normally this is how I would go about not making my own pattern, but copying a pattern, because that's just easier. And making a pattern apparently is like a very high level skill. Making your own patterns, a lot of people don't do that, or it takes a while to get there. So if I could have found a shirt that already had the flared sleeve, then I would have just copied that, honestly. But sometimes in cosplay you have to push yourself to the next level because you just don't have everything you need right now. So here I'm jumping into how I traced the pattern and then turned it into the pattern that I needed using different measurements. Similar to the harem pants, this is a good time to subscribe if you haven't already. The entire ensemble will be put together piece by piece, so I'm doing it as a series once a week. Friday at 10 a.m. these drop throughout the week. You'll see the shorts and kind of just relate to it, just to make sure that you guys know that it dropped. But as you can see, I'm laying a lot of stuff on top of this sleeve that I cut out, and I ironed it. I don't think I put that in the video, but ironing stuff helps you get the exact measurements if you're tracing it. All the stuff on top of it is just to keep it flat, so while I'm tracing it I don't miss the measurement by too much. So now you can see that I have the shape of the sleeve, and that looks like a typical pattern if you're going to make a shirt sleeve. Next, I'm jumping into flaring the edges, so I'll have a really wide wrist area basically, and that's what makes it hang and look really cool. The main thing here is you want a measure or something very long and just has a flat surface so you can draw a straight line. And what you'll do is you'll take the wrist area and you're extending that. And for me, I feel like the perfect measurement, at least for me, was about 3 point something. In my case it was 3.2 times the original wrist length here. So when you turn it into a shirt, when you sew it together, it becomes a circumference. So basically the circumference here multiplied by 3, and you'll get a really big flare for that opening at the wrist. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm drawing a straight line. I'll put in the measurements in the video once I'm done drawing that straight line, so you can see that. But I'm also going to drop the measurements in the description once the video is posted, and I'll drop it on the main comment too, the pinned comment. Once I lift this piece of poster board up, you can kind of see the straight line that I drew. See right there, I was just extending the line. You want to not put an angle on it because you don't want to turn the sleeve into a weird angle. You want to keep that not parallel, but I guess actually intersecting. I guess we'll call it parallel. Parallel with the touch. I forgot what it's called. I guess coinciding. And then I took where you would see the shoulders connecting at the top for your pattern, and I just traced that down to the end, and then I wrote in the measurements. So each part I wrote in the measurement to let you know that the left side and the right side will be the same measurement. The middle might be a little smaller or it might be the same, depending on if you do 3 times that circumference, or if you do 3.2 times the circumference or something like that, like I did. So the middle one for me is a little bit smaller, but the left and the right are equal because you want that equal shape. Alright, once I got this thing cut out, for me, since I'm brand new at this, I always start with some kind of dummy fabric, just something that I don't really need, like an old bed sheet, which in this case, this is an old bed sheet. So I take that, I'll lay the parchment paper on top of it, use something to hold it down, and then I'll trace it onto that fabric. So the parchment paper is really the pattern that I'll keep reusing, but I'll always start by doing so on a piece of fabric that I don't need, and I'll make the sleeve there. And sure, it doubled the time it took for me to make this cosplay because I had to do it for each part: the harem pants, the sleeves, the actual jacket itself, everything except for the claws and the lantern. I had to do it twice because I've never sewn anything before doing this project, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't ruin my good fabric. But in the end, I promise it was worth it. If I'm you, I would do the same thing, because if you forget to add the seam allowance, or you just try to extend your pattern on your own, you don't really know what you're doing, you could cut too little fabric or cut a weird shape, and then you can't really recover from that. If you sew something wrong, you can use the seam ripper and take it apart. But once you cut that fabric, that's pretty solidified. So now you can see that I'm cutting out the pattern after I've traced it onto the bed sheet. And that makes it much easier by having that parchment paper with the pattern that I can just lay down, flatten, trace, and then do this. So now when I move on to making the actual sleeve, if this one comes out well, then I can move on to using the actual fabric that I need, and I'll already have that pattern existing. And even to this day, I kept it. So I have it stored away right now, and if I want to make this again for someone else or anything like that, if I was doing commissions in the future, then I have the pattern. As long as their arms aren't much longer than mine, this will work out perfectly. So here I'm folding the edge, which is why you always want to give a good seam allowance. But I'm folding the very edge. I'm folding probably 1/8, so it'll take up 1/4 of the fabric around each edge. And that actually just makes it look a little more professional, gives that thickness to the opening of the sleeve, and it makes it easier to hold once I stitch it. So honestly, when I took the shirt apart so that I can get this original shape, I just saw that they had done that for the professional shirts all around, and then I saw that all my dress shirts actually had that fold, so I kind of just went with it, and in the end it made it look less like I'm wearing a bed sheet, which I'm not. I bought my own fabric. This is a bed sheet here, but the final will be from a nice fabric, but it looks more like a shirt than just something you put together. I'm ironing it here just so that it'll hold, but I am going to stitch a line through it. Here we go. So I'll try to get in as close as possible without sacrificing the quality. What I'm doing is that edge that I took and folded, I'm now sewing as far from the very edge of the fabric as possible, just to do a top stitch and hold it there. So the further you do from the edge, the more professional it'll look, but I'm not a professional, so I wasn't too worried about it, but I did want to make sure that I didn't ruin my seam allowance. So here's an up close of it. There you go. Pretty straight. Not bad for someone who's just learning this. You'll probably get something similar. If you don't, that's fine. If you don't even choose to fold the edges like that, it takes a good amount of time, especially if you don't iron it. It's not the easiest stitch because your line has to be pretty straight, but to me it added value. But if you're in a hurry, which I was in a hurry, I probably should have thought that through, but whatever. If you're in a hurry or you just don't feel like you're ready for that, then you can skip that. Next, you'll see that I'm pinning the sleeve that I just made to the original dress shirt. That way I can try it on and see if the sleeve looks a hot mess or if we just succeeded at something, because this was my first time making my own pattern. Even though I started with the original sleeve pattern, I had to alter it to make my own pattern, and I didn't know if that was really how that works. I guess I got lucky because it is how it works, and now I can just keep doing that. But make sure you keep in mind that when you're doing this, you want the seams to, any seam allowance, you want to appear on the inside of your shirt. So that means that this dress shirt is turned inside out. The sleeve I have is turned inside out, so you should be able to see the seam for where I put it together. And then you sew them. And essentially that means right side to right side. So the right side will be on the inside for both the shirt and for the sleeve. So you'll be looking at two wrong sides, which is the side of the fabric you do not want showing, which is the side that will hold the inseams. So I'm trying to make sure I give you a good view of that. I'm stitching this together because it can be a little complicated, but as long as you pin it, you should be able to keep your line straight. As long as you don't go over the edge and try to keep that seam allowance at 0.25 or 0.5 if you give yourself extra space, you should be good and make this all come together. You'll see a lot of people with more experience, they'll get that entire circumference around the shoulder in one go. But I always pin half, I'll stop, and then I'll pin the next half and continue. That way I can keep my line straight. It's just something that helped me a lot since I'm a beginner. This next stitch will be pretty much the same thing you just saw. I'm just finishing out the circle. So here's another good time for a shameless plug. Make sure you subscribe. I really hope you guys drop some comments below just to let me know which item you want to see next. This is the sleeves. We have the harem pants. I'm letting you guys decide which order we're doing. The only thing that has been posted at this moment are the harem pants. Everything else is up to you. So I don't know if this will be the second installment or the third. So here we're zooming in close. I want to make sure that if you didn't see it last time, you'll see it now. If you did see it last time, here's a second opportunity to see how close to the edge we're stitching. We're trying to keep that 0.25 seam allowance, but you know, I'm new. I practice my lines, but this is my first time around, so I'm just doing the best I can. You probably noticed that this black thread is not something you want to use on white fabric, but remember this is the dummy sleeve, like we're using an old bed sheet, so we're good to go here. Oh, that's awesome. So Woody J just subscribed while I'm doing the voiceover for this video. So shout out to Woody J. Thanks for subscribing. Also want to say thank you to all my other new subscribers. There's about 7 of you now. And that's amazing to me. I feel like I know what you're here for. So I'm going to make sure that I keep giving you guys the content you need. And hopefully we'll have a bunch of jabbers running around here soon. I also want to say thank you to all my previous subscribers, all 189 of you. Like, we're not huge, but we're mighty. So thank you very much for being here. Okay, so take a look at the difference in these sleeves. The stitch pattern, pretty solid. You can see the black line, some places not perfect. But what I really want to point out is how much circumference we now have at that wrist area. It's massive. It hangs down, it looks like something straight out of an anime. It looks like what we're shooting for. And you can see that the original sleeve of the shirt is just normal, it locks into your wrist. So remember, if you keep that 3.1 or more multiplier around that wrist, then you can turn this into something that really hangs like that. Next, you see me lining up my good fabric here. I advise you to get some chalk, some actual fabric chalk, so that way you don't have to trace with a pencil and risk, I don't know, smudging or damaging your current fabric. But that was one of the, remember, I made this materials list myself. I kind of winged it and bought stuff along the way. Some of the things you see in this video weren't even here at the beginning. I like ran out and bought it because I was like, oh, I need this. Like, I started without pens and I was like, this isn't working. So I think my harem pants video, I start with no pens and then you see me with pens later. I'm literally learning this on the fly. So if you learn this from this video, you're learning with me, which I think is a great opportunity. So I'm using a pencil. I didn't discover that I didn't even discover that fabric chalk was a thing until I watched a bunch of videos on like, why is this so hard, and what do I do about getting these pencil lines out if I mess up, and it's at the edge of the seam, so I guess it's not the hugest problem, but I'd rather not be there. And then I discovered it, which is crazy. But I would recommend getting the chalk so you could trace everything out, and it just rubs right off. Here I am ironing the edges again. I really do think that adds just a little more, I guess, quality look to it. So it takes a lot of time to get every edge, because I did this for the sleeves, I did this for the actual shirt itself, but I really do feel like the added thickness makes it look a little more professional. And I was planning on doing a lot of running and jumping because of the Jabber dance. I wanted to do different dances and kind of really try to portray Jabber and frolic and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I'm not out there and the seams start to come apart. Okay, so hopefully this is starting to look familiar, because we did this with the original dummy fabric, my bed sheet that I used, the old bed sheet. So this should look familiar for you. Folding the edges, adding that top stitch, and bringing it together so that it's not a straight line, it's a circumference. All of that should look a little familiar, which is a good thing. That means you're on your way. If you're doing this along with me, I still do recommend, same thing I said in my harem video, I would watch this video through maybe on like 1.5 or 2 times speed, just so that you'll get a feel for what's going to happen, and then I would go play along with it and pause whenever you need. But this is going to look very similar. And as always, when we have a little break, that's a great time when you see something repeating. If you have not subscribed, just make sure you click that bell. Drop a comment if you have a question, or if you think that I left something out of the video, which is a lot of footage to edit down. I think this was 210 minutes. I edited it down to 22 minutes by speeding up and cutting out some of the repetitive stuff. So I did that so you guys could actually digest this, and we'll get all the important stuff. So if you feel like something may have been cropped out, or you just have questions, please drop that in the comments. That really helps me decide what video to do next, how to better do these voiceovers, and what information I should be adding in these. But I have to see your comments so that I can kind of cater to that. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll make sure that I try to cater to what you guys actually need. And here's the up close look again. This time it looks a little better than the first time. So the more practice you get, the better. But I feel like you would probably lose. A lot of that excitement if you do this too many times on a dummy sheet. So once is enough, as long as you get that feel for doing that top stitch and folding that over. But as you can see, it improved a lot just from the one time I did it before, and then this was the second time I did it. And then I have 2 sleeves to do, so the second sleeve for the actual shirt comes out even better. So I really do feel like each time you do it, it gets easier and it just comes out more straight and it looks more professional. Alright, so the next step is to finally bring the sleeve together. I skipped it on the dummy fabric, but here you go now on the actual fabric. So I'm showing you right here kind of what it looks like once you touch the right sides together. And remember, you're sewing together on the wrong side. Is what should be facing you, right side to right side. So that way your inseam will be on the inside. What we're going to do is turn that into an actual sleeve. And then once you have a sleeve, you sew that onto the shirt. I do not have a shirt at this point because I made the sleeves before the actual shirt / jacket that Jabber wears. So I'll just show you a picture at the end of what it looks like together. But right now I'm literally just making 2 sleeves, and then I sit them aside, iron them later, and then attach them to the shirt when I make the shirt. And that can be the next video posted if that's what you guys desire. So make sure you put that in the comments. If you want to see the shirt get made and then maybe the 2 pieces brought together, that's one video. That can be my next video. If you want to see the claws, which right now in the comments the claws is winning. The claws are clawing. So those will be the next thing posted if nothing changes. Today is Saturday afternoon. So if nothing changes by, I guess, Thursday, that's what you'll be seeing Friday at 10 a.m. So if you want to see the shirt or something else, make sure you comment that, because right now the claw comments are winning. Alright, so here I tried to give a much closer view. I want you to really be able to see how I'm handling the fabric. If you go watch a pro, it's going to look a lot different, but we're beginners, okay? You might have noticed that I just went in reverse. That adds extra hold to it. It kind of locks in the stitch for you. I learned that way after I've already done the harem pants, so if anything falls apart on this actual cosplay, it'll probably be the harem pants, but I don't think so. They're doing pretty well. So there you go. I have the actual sleeve put together. I can actually run my arm through it, but there's nothing to attach it to because I haven't made the shirt yet. That seam looks a little rough. It's not perfect, but it's our first time and it gets the job done. Here we have a picture of the entire Jabber ensemble finished. So I went and did a photo shoot with this cosplay, and I think this is probably the best picture that shows really that circumference of those wrist areas of the sleeve. Like, they really hang down. So remember, don't make those too short. You really want them to, I guess, have some weight to them, really hang down. It really adds the flair to it. With that, we can wrap up here. I'll see you guys in a week from now, 10 a.m. sharp. That'll be when the post premieres. Anytime after that, make sure you drop your comments, your likes. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. We're going to build this entire thing together before we move on to the next cosplay. Thanks, everybody. Old and new subscribers, I really appreciate it. Have a great one. Happy New Year.